The rain had been falling for hours, cold, heavy, relentless. In the front yard of an abandoned house, a dog with white and black fur, his coat, like spilled milk over ink, was chained to a rusted iron post. His name was Sliver. The chain around his neck was so old that flakes of orange rust clung to his fur. The water had already reached halfway up his legs. Each wave slapped against the concrete, rising a little higher. Sliver shivered and whimpered, glancing toward the road as if hoping someone might appear. A red pickup truck came into view through the curtain of rain. Inside sat David Turner, a lawyer in his 40s, and his 10-year-old daughter, Lily. They were driving home through the outskirts of the flooded town when Lily suddenly pointed out the window. "Dad, there's a dog, look!" David hit the brakes. The truck skidded slightly in the water before stopping near the gate. Outside, through the storm, they could see the dog struggling against the chain, the floodwater swirling around him. David grabbed his phone. "I'll call Animal Rescue," he said quickly. But the line rang and rang, no answer. He frowned, glancing again at the house. The front gate was locked with a heavy padlock, and the water was rising fast. He turned to Lily. "We can't open that gate. It's dangerous here. Let's go home." "But Dad," Lily's voice broke, her eyes filling with worry as she watched the helpless animal. David hesitated, his hands tight around the steering wheel. Then he drove off, the image of the trembling dog fading behind them in the rearview mirror. That night, the rain continued. Inside their warm, quiet house, David sat at his desk, surrounded by papers. But his mind wasn't on work. From her room, Lily tossed and turned, unable to sleep. She finally got up and walked to her father's office. "Dad," she said softly, "that dog's still out there. We can't just leave him." David looked at her for a long moment, the storm echoing outside. He sighed, stood up, and reached for 2 raincoats hanging by the door. "Let's go." They drove back into the storm, the red pickup cutting through the flooded road. Thunder rolled in the distance. The headlights reflected off the rising water. When they reached the house, the gate was almost half submerged. Lily's small hand pressed against the window. "He's still there!" David jumped out, splashing into the cold water. The gate was locked tight. He pulled hard, but it didn't move. He looked around desperately and spotted a construction sign near the road. Behind it lay a pile of old tools. He found a rusted hammer. Wading back to the gate, David swung hard. The metal groaned but didn't break. He hit again. The padlock cracked open. Water rushed in as he pushed the gate wide. "Come on, boy," David called. Sliver hesitated, then bounded through the water, his chain clattering behind him. David lifted the soaked, shivering dog into the truck. Lily wrapped him in an old blanket. As they drove away, the flood swallowed the road behind them. Back home, Lily carefully dried Sliver's fur with a towel while David opened a can of dog food. The dog ate hungrily, tail wagging weakly. When Lily bent down to pet him, she noticed something. "Dad, look at his leg." On Sliver's left leg was a small scar, faint but deep, around his neck. The fur was worn down from the collar that had once been there too long. The next morning, David took Sliver to a veterinary clinic in town. The vet examined him malnourished, a few minor cuts, but nothing serious. "He's lucky," the vet said, patting Sliver's head. "He must have been someone's dog. He's well trained." David nodded slowly, thinking, someone must be missing him. After the visit, they returned to the truck. David, now in his white t-shirt, placed Sliver gently into the passenger seat. He started the engine and drove off, but something inside him wouldn't rest. That night, while Lily was asleep, David sat again at his desk. Sliver lay curled up on the floor beside him, finally dry and calm. The room was warm. The soft yellow light of the desk lamp mixed with the blue glow of the computer screen. David typed, "Lost dog near Riverside. Black and white shepherd mix." Dozens of posts appeared. Recent ones, old ones, desperate ones. Then one caught his eye. On the screen was an old forum post with a picture of a dog that looked exactly like Sliver. The caption read, "Lost dog, silver-gray shepherd mix. Name, Silver, missing near Lakeview Park. Please contact Harold Miller, 503 XXX. David stared at the name. "Silver," he murmured. "Harold Miller." He picked up his phone. dialing the number. After a few rings, an elderly voice answered. "Hello? Mr. Miller?" David said quietly. "I think I found your dog." The next afternoon, David drove the red pickup toward Lakeview, a quiet area near the edge of town. The rain had stopped. The sky was pale gold, the kind of calm that comes only after a long storm. He parked outside a small wooden house covered in moss. An old man came to the door, Harold Miller, a retired engineer. His hair was silver gray, his eyes kind but weary. When David stepped out of the truck with Sliver on a leash, Harold froze. His breath caught in his throat. "Silver?" he whispered. Sliver's tail began to wag. Then, as if recognizing the voice, he broke free and ran straight toward the old man. Harold dropped to his knees, arms open. The dog leaped into his embrace, licking his face, whining, trembling. Harold's voice cracked. "Oh, my boy, you came back." David stood a few steps away, watching in silence as the man held the dog close. The sunlight caught the tears on Harold's cheeks. Sliver buried his head against his chest and sighed the sound of a heart finding home. David smiled faintly. "He's yours," he said softly. Harold looked up, eyes wet. Thank you. I don't know how to repay you." David shook his head. "You already have. You loved him first." For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the wind moved, carrying the faint smell of rain and grass from the lake nearby. The red pickup waited quietly by the road, its paint glinting under the last light of day. David turned to leave, giving one final glance toward the small wooden house where a man and his long-lost dog sat together again, framed by the glow of sunset. He smiled, whispered to himself, "Home," and walked back toward his truck.